What up guys, I'm here with my Abbasid Dynasty guide for Age of Empires 4, and here I will talk about Abbasid game plan, about Abbasid tactics, we will be taking a look at some Abbasid games, and also we will discuss playing against all other civilizations. So this guide is for land maps, for 1 versus 1, it's for competitive gameplay, so I will be assuming that players are really trying to win, and this guide is as of 17th of August. Okay, let's begin by just stating some reasons why would you want to play Abbasids. And first of all, playing Abbasids is all about your economy. It is strong and it is scalable. And scalable means that the more villagers or the more traders you get, the more efficient, effective your bonuses become. So as opposed to maybe Rus, when you get your bounty at the start of the game, you get maybe 200, 300 gold, and this amount, it doesn't depend on how many town centers do you get. With Abbasids, your bonuses are usually in percents, so your Golden Age gives you 15% extra gathering at first level, which is why with Abbasids you always want to get more economy going. And because you want to develop your economy, and because your economy can become so strong, your gameplay usually is also going to be very defensive, at least in the early stages of the game, because your opponent has to do something to damage you, and you will need to produce units and to make buildings and adjust your strategy to defend yourself. Also, I would say that H3 or Castle Age for Abbasids is just very strong, very comfortable to be in, because your units are very good in Castle Age and your economy starts to kick in. And speaking about your units, they are fairly versatile. For example, you can use your camel archers to stop enemy cavalry or to counter armored units like Maat arms or strategies like Burgrave Rush, and you can just use your camel riders to destroy any cavalry and raid yourself, and your infantry is ready for all kinds of situations. Your infantry can make some siege engines like springalds and mangonels, and your spearmen have double range attack, which makes them more efficient in melee compositions. And your archers and crossbows are just very good, especially archers. And lastly, I would say that Abbasids are fairly simple to get into, because they have a straightforward game plan, develop your economy, defend yourself, then attack, but also it is a very deep civilization, which is why it's difficult to play at high level. You have to be able to respond to different kinds of threats, and you have to understand when you want to play which units or when you want to adjust your approach. So I would say that this is a good civilization for beginners, because as I said, it's easy to get into, but there is always more to learn when you're playing Abbasids. Okay, so, and the general playstyle for Abbasids is usually just developing their economy, just step by step, while also protecting yourself from any threats, while eventually you will be able to overwhelm your opponent with your units. Let's talk about some strategy. First of all, I would say there are two general openings. First is playing 2 town centers with military or culture wing, and second is playing 1 town center, aggression or fast castle. Let's start by discussing 2 town centers. In this case, you want to get your economy going, you want to develop your economy, and you want to survive. You want to defend your 2nd town center, you do not want to place it in where it can be destroyed, and of course you want to go for some units if you need. But if you established your economy with 2 town centers, you can try to transition into next stage. So here our focus is going to be to defend ourselves. For example, if we are getting pushed from 1 TC, we're just trying to survive and escape to the next stage. If our opponent is playing 2 town centers, we just go Castle Age ourselves. This is what it usually plays like. And our second approach is playing 1 town center, aggression or fast castle. Here our goal is to leverage some extra tempo that we get by skipping this 2nd town center. And this can be useful if you're really afraid of opponent feudal aggression. For example, you're playing English all-in and you don't want to get a 2nd town center, or you're playing against, I don't know, OotD, and for some reason you just want to rush Castle Age to deny them relics. Yeah, in this case you can just go, for example, military wing and be very aggressive and try to kill your opponent, or just defend yourself, or you can go Castle Age with some horsemen, then you go military wing for Castle Age and you get some free camels, and this way you can establish map control, you can get relics. And I would say this approach is more situational. You should not do it in every game, but you should learn both of these openings. You should know where you should go to town centers, and also you should be able to stay on 1 TC fighting, defending yourself, or maybe rushing castle age. And win conditions, I would say they're very wide for Abbasids. First of all, it's possible to win in early H2 or H3, but it requires your opponent to have a vulnerable civilization. For example, against Japanese or against maybe Malians in some cases, it is just possible to go for military wing and even skip a second town center and just be very aggressive, eventually transitioning to the next stage. And it is possible to win this way. But it's kind of risky, because your aggression it has to pay off. If it doesn't pay off, it's better to establish your economy or go to the next stage. So you should only commit to this win condition if you see you are dealing a lot of damage. And next, it's also possible, and it's the most frequent win condition for you, is to establish your economy in castle age and then just push. In this case, you want to go for at least 2 town centers. You also want to get a lot of infantry units, maybe use some lancers or camel riders to raid your opponent, get relics, and then just keep pushing with your infantry, with your siege, get some keeps, get map control. In this case, you're just leveraging your superior economy to have more units and to have more presence on the map, and eventually you're just going to prevail in this case. I should note that your economy and your infantry units are especially strong in Castle Age. For example, your infantry with military wing gets extra 15% health. Your Gulams are also very tanky. Your archers get some extra attack speed if you went for a military wing. And of course, you can get some mangonels and springles with your infantry in the field. And you can use camels to absolutely destroy enemy cavalry. And last win condition is winning in late H4, just because your economy in Imperial Age is going to be crazy. If you have Eco Wing or if you have Trade Wing, or both of these wings, your traders are absolutely broken. They function with additional 70 to 80% efficiency, and they can give you extra wood if you ran out of wood. Your economic bonuses from Eco Wing is also very strong in Imperial Age. And this way you can just overwhelm your opponent with units, or you can raid everywhere, or you can absolutely secure your position, get resources, and try to go for a wonder victory. And this is no joke. Abbasid often they have to go for a wonder victory because they do not have very strong tools for pushing. So Chinese maybe feel a little bit better in a straight fight, but your economy is going to be so good that often it's possible to go for a wonder victory. Alright, so here I have 4 games for you. Last game is a little bit of a meme, and 2 of these games are by me. I also found 2 games by very good players. 1 game by Killjardy on the ladder, and also I'll be taking a look on a game with Vem versus Marine Lord. This is from a recent tournament on Dry Arabia. So let's watch these games. Alright, so the first game is against Rus. Here I will comment on build order. First of all, we just send our 6 villagers to berries. I like to do it like this. I like to build a house to connect my mill to my town center. I also send 2 villagers to build this mill and 2 villagers to different berries. Meanwhile, I'm also getting my second scout, so this is not a usual build order, because we get 1 less villager and we get 1 scout, but there is not a lot of differences. When you're collecting berries, you want to make sure that you collect different berry bushes for more efficient, more stable food collection. I'm also making this house to connect it with my town center. You will see later what I'm talking about. So, 7 villagers on berries. This is how I collect my food. Then we can start getting some villagers on gold. Meanwhile, of course, I'm scouting, I'm trying to deny bounty. Yeah, you need to make a mining camp, and also you make your House of Wisdom. House of Wisdom, it has this influence aura, which protects your buildings from torches. Like if he has some knights or some spearmen, your buildings will be a little bit more difficult to break because of extra fire armor. But also this Golden Age, it gives you economic bonus once you hit 10 buildings. If you have 10 buildings inside this Golden Age influence, your economy is just going to be much better. So you see I'm sending 3 guys on gold. Usually you do it like this. Usually you go for 3 guys on gold and you send 7 villagers on food. But here I also get one extra villager to gold, because my build order is a little bit changed. So I'm playing against Rus, which is why I went for 2 scouts, and this is why I need 4 guys on gold. I don't think it's very important. What's important is that you want to get some resources to get to next stage. New guys I like to send on wood, once I have 7 guys on food and once I have 3 or 4 guys on gold. You can see my opponent is already aging up, and here I'm going to go up with my culture wing. So to make it easier for myself, I usually just set my House of Wisdom to a hotkey. I using my 5 hotkey, so every time I want to age up or I want to get some unique upgrade, I just click my hotkey and I get my House of Wisdom upgrade. Right now you can see I don't need to build my age up with any villagers, it's a very good economic bonus. And I'm just sending my guys to wood. And what exactly is my plan here? You can see I'm already going for some stone collection. This is because... oh no, actually it's not a stone collection. But anyway, here I'm playing against Rus. I see, or rather I know that he's going to collect some stone to get a second town center, which is why I'm going to get a second town center myself, preferably on this gold. And then I'm just going to defend it if necessary and try to go up to the castle age. Because you do not really want to stay in feudal age for too long if you're playing Abbasid. So not much happening for now. You can see my economy. I am not sending a lot of guys to food, because I am trying to get a town center. I'm also getting some gold. I get about 150 or 40 gold, which I will need for my upgrades. I will need this upgrade from my culture wing, which will make aging up and getting upgrades easier. And also I get this upgrade for fresh foodstuffs, for cheaper villager cost. So this upgrade gives you about 1 extra villager for each town center you have, and of course it saves you some food. Here I start to collect stone. I just make sure that he's also collecting stone, he's also aging up. We are not going for any units right now, because there is no need to. Maybe I could have also went for military wing and for some horsemen to attack this deer pack to stop him from pushing a town center. But I think in this matchup, because he has Kremlin, he could put his Kremlin right here and I wouldn't be able to attack it, which is why I'm just going for culture wing and second town center myself. Here I really want to put it on my gold, because if I want to go next stage I need a secure gold source. So I'm using this town center as my defense structure. We can see he already got his town center, it's okay, he's playing Rus. And at this point I believe I see him going for a stable. So I know he's going to try to attack me, and my goal here... well, I could make some units in feudal age, I could go for example for horsemen or for archers, but usually I think it's better if your gold is protected, if it's not very exposed, it's better to just go castle age and try playing with castle units. Here he's going for some archers and he's going for more units. I can see all of this production, which is why I need to take some steps to prepare myself. First of all, I need to click my age up. You can see it's better for Abbasid because it's cheaper because of culture wing, and also I don't have to idle my villagers while building it. It's very good. I'm not getting any eco upgrades right now, and you can see I already started aging up. At this point I just want to use my gold to get some upgrades. First of all, of course, I want to get textiles, and it's interesting because this upgrade from for cheaper villagers, it also gives you cheaper textiles. You want to get textiles if you know you're going to get pushed. So if you know you will lose some villagers, because if you're getting pushed here, you will lose some villagers, you want to minimize your losses. And also I already went for a stable, because as soon as I age up I'm going to get some knights, and while I'm aging up I'm getting some horsemen. He's already going for some rams. I should also drop a blacksmith soon and get some arrow protection. Right now I actually have different options. Once I age up I can go for knights, I can go for gulams, I can just go for upgraded archers. Here I decide that I have a lot of food and I want to go for gulams and maybe some knights. But at this point, if you aged up, and if you know your opponent is going to push you, you just want to pump out any units, right? You just want to protect yourself. I'm also getting some free camels, 2 free camels from my age up with military wing, which is why I think military wing into castle age is very strong. Camels are a very strong unit against cavalry, we will see it later. Right now I just tried to do some damage here with my cavalry, and of course I already have textiles. And here you want... So, tower center defense is very important when you're playing Abbasid. You need to know how to defend your town centers, and there are multiple things you need to do. First of all, you want to have some villagers inside shooting enemy archers or spearmen, and you want to micro it really well. Second, you also can pull some villagers from outside this town center maybe to repair it. You can use villagers to break ramps, but here I'm using my golems for this. You want to keep reducing your units, you want to optimize your economy as much as possible, you want to spend all your resources. Got my blacksmith but cannot make any upgrades now. And here is kind of a mess, right, because I'm losing some villagers. I can also garrison and ungarrison my villagers. I also garrison some villagers inside here, because they shot some units. I'm losing some villagers, and as long as I can defend it, really I'm fine, because I will get some relics later, I will get some raids. And you can see at this point I'm already getting my units, and I managed to clear almost all of his military, and I broke his ramps. So at this point let's look at the situation. First of all, it might seem like we lost some villagers, and he also has 2 town centers, so it's not very good for us. But we have a lot of advantages here. First of all, we're castle age and he's still feudal age, and he's nowhere close to being castle age. Second, for the moment we have better units, because we can go gulams and we can go knights, and even camel riders. So the only real way to stop gulams for him is to make knights, but knights we can kill using our camel riders or our lancers. It is really a good position for us. At the same time, he doesn't have any safe food sources, he's out of sheep, he is out of this deer pack. He has his boar, which I pulled a little bit earlier so he cannot see this boar, but probably he could go here. He's going for this deer pack, but it's very unprotected and he would need some towers or some palisades to protect it. He can also go for berries, but berries is not a good food source for Rus. So here basically my objectives are first of all to grab some relics. So I need to go for a monastery, I need to grab relics. This one, this one, this one, as many relics as possible. And second, it is to just make some units, to put pressure on his base, to slow his age up as much as possible. Here I'm just using my units to go to his food source. Also getting my monastery, I believe, I don't know, yeah, right here. Getting some food. Probably you should be aware of his knights, because he can still raid me. Here I'm just trying to force some idle and some villager kills, and you can see just how difficult it is to kill my gulams. He's collecting a lot of berries. Here we idled his villagers. Even if we don't kill anything, it's still a lot of idle time, right? He's also trying to raid us, so you should be aware of this. Usually, maybe you don't want to even go for towers, maybe just want to try to make some palisades, here and here, and you want to pull your camel rider to counter it. So these knights, they're easy to snipe with your camel riders. Here he's just making some units to protect himself. If he just goes up right now, yeah, and he has to go for farms, but if he just goes up to castle age right now, I'm probably going to swarm him using my knights, using my gulams. And at this point I'm just happy to pick some relics. You can see I'm losing a lot of units. I'm losing this knight. I finally pulled some guys to protect my food collection. So you see I am already going for this deer pack. I have a good palisade here. In Castle Age it's just very important to keep your villagers safe, to keep your food collection going. And I'm not getting any farms yet. I tried to pick some relics, but I was stopped. Just sending more villagers, more gulams, more units to his food collection, but he already has a lot of farms, so probably I should just focus on picking up relics. Here is another episode of him raiding me, which is pretty good for him. But at this point, I have a lot of benefits. First of all, I have my Golden Age. It's still Golden Age 1, but it already gives me 15% extra gathering. Of course, he also has benefits like Kremlin Aura for extra 20% wood, and he has his bounty bonus for food collection, so it should be about 5 or 10%. But in total, I think my Golden Age at this point is stronger for me. I also got some relics. I got only one relic now, but I'm going to get more relics soon. My units are better, and I just have more food sources at this point. This is because my berries, they last much longer. So you see, it's not 250 like usual civilizations, it's actually 350. It is another benefit that you get as Abbasids. And maybe these traits, they are not perfect for me because I'm losing some gulams, but I'm also getting some villagers and I'm forcing him to get more units, slowing his castle age even further. Meanwhile, I can get more relics. It's okay actually to lose monks as long as you're killing enemy units, as long as you're dealing some damage, because you can just make more monks, right? They cost 150 gold, and usually gold is not a problem for you in Castle Age. Usually the problem is food. You can see camel riders just being camel riders, and some distraction so I can get relic. So let's speed this up a little bit. I'm also getting some farms myself. But overall, I got the Golden Age tier 2, which gives me a little bit of reserve speed. It's just a little bit, but it can be useful. Getting my gulams. Also, he's trying to raid me a little bit, idles my food economy. But I have units here and I have my town center protecting me. You can see he's floating some resources. He's probably going to go Castle Age right now, trying to take a fight right here. And you can see I got already 3 relics, another relic right here, and I get one more relic from my base. So really it is just 5 relics, and you really like having 5 relics as Abbasid, because in late game your economy is going to be very strong. But if I also have 5 relics, it means my opponent is just going to be starving for gold. And here you see I lost some villagers because of this raid, so I have less villagers, but also I have my Golden Age affecting all of my villagers. And my opponent is collecting gold which he doesn't have any bonuses for, and also I have my tier 2 eco upgrades, except for mining, and also he's collecting some berries. So at this point my economy should just become more efficient. And I just want to go for my strong infantry units, because knights, lancers and camel riders, they are fine for raiding, for controlling railings, and for just, countering enemy cavalry, especially camel riders, which is why I'm going for some of them still. But also my main units in Castle Age are gulams, archers and crossbows, and maybe spearmen. So all of my infantry units. Now he's probably going to try to push me, because he has more villagers, he did a lot of damage here. But I am not very worried about it. And you can look at the economy. It's a total of, I think, how much? About 3,500 collection, while I have about 3,700, 600. But the point is, it's only going to get better for me from this point on, right? Because I have all relics. Here you can see he's getting a lot of different units, but his main composition is crossbows plus spearmen. And at this point I just need to win this fight. That's all I need to be in a good position. And here I'm using my another unique bonus, is that my siege engineering is free, so I can get rams and siege towers, but also I can construct springles and mangonels without having a siege workshop. Actually, you need a siege workshop anyway, so you can get your siege upgrades, like siege movement speed is the most important, but here is just very efficient, very good for me. And you see, I have a lot of archers. My archers also benefit from increased attack speed. Because I'm Abbasid, this is a unique technology from my military wing. I lost my town center, but don't really care, because I'm already at 100 villages. Building a keep to consolidate my position here, so he cannot go for my farms, it's difficult for him to go for my gold. At the same time, I have some 16 gulams and 28 archers and some other units, and my production nearby. I got 3 mangonels, I getting 3 springles, and he doesn't have any siege except for a trebuchet and 2 springles around his base. And this composition of slow units like crossbows, spearmen, it will not be able to push against my mangonels. And if I can just survive this episode, I can stabilize my economy, just going to be better for me. Also, you can see here I'm using my camel riders to counter this cavalry. I also making second layer of walls, but at the same time I will be trying to push him here, just to win this fight. Camels, a little bit about camels, they do some extra damage against cavalry. You can see it's X2 modifier, it's very strong. Also, they reduce enemy damage by 20%, enemy cavalry damage. And there is a unique technology for them, for their movement speed, which I'm not getting, but basically if you get it, they're going to be as quick as horsemen. Pretty good. Here he takes this fight, but my camels do a lot of damage, and you see it's very difficult for these knights. At the same time I'm just using my mangonels. I want to secure my siege using my range units. And there is no answer to mangonels, crossbows are just getting shredded. So camel riders lost this fight, but they kill most of these knights. I'm going for more lancer myself. And here, basically, I just want to keep pushing him. You can see my archers are very strong, their attack speed is very good. They can even snipe these man-at-arms. And here, I just know that if I keep fighting him, if I keep pushing, my units in Castle Age are going to be a little better, because he cannot go for cavalry because of camel riders. My archers are just very strong against crossbows and spearmen, and my gulams are better than man-at-arms for tanking, for just soaking a lot of damage. And also I can construct siege in my field. So probably he should go for Imperial Age, but he cannot go for Imperial Age right now because he needs to make some units. And also, sooner or later he will be running out of gold. You can see he already exhausted his gold deposits on this side. He has only last big gold vein, and I have a lot of extra gold, and I also have my 5 relics. And if I have 5 relics, it means he needs to go for trade. But trade is very difficult on this map. So basically, I'm just happy to stay in Castle Age and keep fighting him, as long as I don't lose any fights. Let's speed this up a little bit. It's just more of the same, he's trying to push me, but I have better army. Yeah, and also you can see I'm going for some spearmen here, and the reason is because I got a lot of food collection, and your spearmen are also very strong. And they're very strong because they have this unique technology. Let me show you. A phalanx, it allows you to attack for increased range, double range, and it's good because you can have more of your spearmen attacking at the same time, right? So you can even get your gulams or horsemen or knights attacking, and at the same time your spearmen will be attacking from behind them. And here let's just speed it up a little bit. You can see I'm just winning this fight. He has some mangonels, some siege, I just want to avoid these shots. And here I have a lot of options for finishing this game. You can see my economy is very strong. His economy is also alright, but my units are just a little bit better in Castle Age. And I can just go to his farms, I can stop his gold collection, I can do a lot of things. Here I just decided to go for his economy, go Imperial Age and get mass Lancers. It's maybe not the best way to finish, but it's the easiest way, I think. I just get a lot of Lancers and try to push him. So I will just show you how you can finish games like this. You can see still he has a lot of villagers, a lot of economy. I don't have as many villagers. I probably could go for some trade here, but I don't really need to go for trade, because I still have my gold mines, and I have 5 relics. I'm getting all my eco upgrades, and a little bit about eco upgrades. Here I'm aging up with my eco wing instead of trade wing. You can go for trade wing because it gives you very strong trade with these 2 upgrades. You can also go for eco wing like I did. Eco wing gives you 8% drop off on all resources, which is extremely strong. So drop off is better than just gathering speed upgrades like for food or for wood, because it increases total amount of resources you can get. And yeah, this is just a very good upgrade. And also agriculture, just a nice upgrade for my farms. At this point you already have a lot of farms, you really want to get it. It's easier in this case than getting some traders, which is why I'm going for it. Also getting some eco upgrades with culture wing, it is cheaper for me. And basically I'm not rushing anything here. I'm just getting more lancers, trying to stop his economy. And you see he already has less villagers than I do. He still has some siege, but siege cannot counter lancers in this case. I'm just getting to his economy. He doesn't have a lot of villagers left. And this game it should be over. Also, I'm getting my university and upgrades. Right here, I'm getting my biology upgrade for my lancers. These are very situational, you should get them depending on your composition. So you often have to get your elite army tactics for your Gulams or Spearmen. You also can get your incendiary arrows, or you can get your chemistry and go for hand cannoneers. So there is a lot of options. Late game actually is basically it's a lot of options for Abbasid. In late game you can do basically anything you want. Just some things to keep in mind. You have your cavalries, which are very strong against enemy siege, and your camels can boost your infantry armor by 2. So you always want to have at least 1 camel in your army to boost yourself. Also your infantry, because of bootcamp, is going to have more HP. So, and also your trade is going to be much more efficient, because your traders are cheaper and your traders have these unique technologies for more drop-off. So in late game really you want to leverage all of your advantages and you want to do what is best for your situation. But this game is just over. Alright, so the second game is by Wham. It is Wham against Marine Lord. It was on the latest Dry Arabia tournament. And here it's a little bit a different game. A little bit of a different game, right? I will quickly show you his build order. In this case he just goes for 1 scout because he's playing against Byzantines, not against Rus. So it is 7 villagers on foot, but here you can see he's going with 6 villagers to berries, 1 villager on sheep. Then he's getting his 3 villagers on gold. Not getting House of Wisdom yet, because it's not important where exactly you get it, when exactly you get it. I like to get it near my gold mine and near my berries. Wham likes to get it on the other side of his base, so maybe it's easier for him to extend his Golden Age aura to his stone mine, because he's going to mine some stone. Here the Byzantine player is just staging up with Grand Winery, so it's a default Byzantine opening. He can be aggressive here, he can go fast castle. He can also go to town centers, and Wham is just going to go for military wing. And you can see he's getting some 6 villagers on foot, 5 villagers on 6 villagers on wood, and he's also getting some gold for his upgrades, most importantly fresh foodstuffs. And the reason he's going for military wing, there are actually 2 reasons. First of all, against Byzantines you want to be aggressive, you want to try to stop these berries, to stop this gold collection, or at least force something like arches or maybe defensive tower. And against many civilizations like Malians, like Byzantines, you want to be aggressive in feudal age, at least before you get your 2 town centers, which is why he's going for this military wing. It doesn't mean you have to fully commit to it, you have to play one town center aggression, although if you're playing against Japanese, you can play it like this. But here it just buys him some time, gives him some damage opportunity, and also secures his second town center. And second reason is because you just want to get some units, and maybe get this bootcamp upgrade for your archers and your spearmen, and use them to defend your second town center. So military wing, it can also be used defensively. But here you will see he's doing something that is very popular with Abbasids. And the idea here is that you have your 4 free units, 2 spearmen and 2 archers. You're getting your stable, and you're going to get 2 horsemen, and you're going to use your 2 spearmen, 2 archers and 2 horsemen to deal some damage to your opponent. For example, to stop gold collection, to force towers, to kill a villager on wood, something like this. At the same time, once you got these units out, you're getting your stone and you're getting your second town center. And after this, you just adapt depending on situations. But usually you want to play defensively, you want to use your units to defend your second town center, and you want to go next stage at some point. Here, Wham is also doing something very interesting. He's going to tower rush Byzantines. It's a common tactic against Byzantines, and he's going to put a tower right here to block this berry collection. He cannot put it here. Ideally, he would prefer to put it here to block gold collection and berry collection, but there is a tower with arrow slits, so this is the only option he has. Meanwhile, Marine Lord just trying to get some eco upgrades, trying to get mercenary house and stable for horsemen, is just the usual Byzantine stuff. You can see he's trying to deal some damage here. I don't think he can kill anything because of arrow slits, because of town center, but after this tower goes up, he can just prevent these berries from being collected. At the same time, you want to get exactly 350 stone for this town center, and yeah, he needs probably to drop off this sheep to not lose them accidentally. And you see he left only 5 villagers on foot, because he doesn't need a lot of food right now. He only needs food for his villagers. And he already got his upgrade for cheaper villagers. You want to get it as soon as you age up. He also has some extra gold. It's probably a mistake, but it's not a big mistake, because you're going to need your gold sooner or later. There is no way currently for Marine Lord to stop this tower. He got enough berries for his longbow pack. And now Wham is probably going to just pull his villager back. He's going to leave these units inside, because for the moment it's too dangerous and just too slow to move them back to his base. And you also want to defend this tower with your units, which is why he put them inside. And here he's trying to put this town center a little bit greedily on deer pack. It's a mistake, and it gets denied by this horseman. So he puts it on his bull line. Or never mind, actually I think he's putting it on this gold. Yeah, you can see town center on gold usually is how you want to do it, because it protects your gold, and usually it's not far away from your base. It can be defended. And Marine Lord now can just try to be very, very aggressive and push this second town center. Usually this is what you want to do. Or maybe not push second town center, maybe just push food collection. You can see there is a berry pack, which is kind of good, because it's in the back of his base. But Marine Lord has some horsemen, so it can be difficult to get it. Yeah, Wham tried to do some raising damage, but lost his horsemen. This is not very good. And now he's going for a lot of horsemen. So this is one of the ways you can defend your second town center. First way is to just get a lot of archers, and you get like 20, 30, 40 archers, and you get some spearmen to defend yourself from horse units. But it doesn't work if your wood collection gets denied, if your opponent just overwhelms you. You can see there is already 6 horsemen, and soon 8 horsemen. So the second way that people recently started using is just going for multiple stables. 2 or 3 stables, then you get some horsemen. Maybe you try to distract your opponent with raids, and if he goes for rams, you can break rams using your horsemen. So we will see how it works in this case. Wham is collecting a lot of food, he's collecting berries, he's collecting this deer. Oh, not yet, but very soon I think. And he's collecting his sheep still. Going for 3 stables. You can see sneakily going for these berries. At the same time just trying to mass horsemen. And Marine Lord it doesn't have a lot of production. Only has stable and the mercenary house. Of course, this cistern makes production 40% more efficient, so it's more like 1.5 stables. But still, it's 1.5 stables against 3 stables. And here you want to think about your food sources if you're going for mass horsemen. If you're going for mass archers, for example, with 3 archer ranges, you want to think about your wood collection mainly, but here you want to think about your food sources. So you can see neither of them is getting any eco upgrades right now, because this game is very aggressive. Marine Lord needs to punish them for the second town center, and them just needs to survive. Yeah, only 1 wheelbarrow for Marine Lord, but it's not a lot. He also collected some extra stone, you can see, for this outpost fortification and emplacement. These units are still sitting inside, by the way. And here Marine Lord is just going next stage. This is one of the options you have. Another option would be to just go for feudal units, for example with a hippodrome, a lot of horsemen, a lot of longbows plus archers, but he wants to go for a safer option, because against mass horsemen it can be difficult to push. And for Abbasids, when your opponent is going Castle Age, is also a very difficult, dangerous moment, because they can go for some armored units like men at arms, in which case usually you want to age up yourself, or you want to just go for camel archers. But here he already has 3 stables, and camel archers are going to be too expensive. You can see he's getting a farm. It's okay, you can get some extra farms, because this food collection, he's trying to go for it, but maybe it will run out soon, so you want to have some farms at least to give you food always. And he didn't go for this berry collection for some reason. Maybe because he's afraid of some horseman raids. You can see Wham just in general playing very safely, trying to build a tower on this wood, trying to build 2 towers on this food collection. This is a berry pack and this is deer. It's very important for him. And now trying to use horsemen to raid. Just trying to buy himself a little bit of time. And he's already aging up with Culture Wing. So here you can age up with Culture Wing, you can age up with Economic Wing. Economic Wing gives you easier farm transition because of this Fertile Crescent upgrade, and Culture Wing makes it easier for you to get some upgrades. Here he probably wants to get a lot of upgrades for Blacksmith, for his horseman, which is why he's going... Oh, never mind, he just changed it to Economic Wing. But initially, yeah, he just went with Culture Wing. Now he is afraid of... Yeah, he probably is afraid of these units, and he knows he cannot chase after villagers because of extra defenses, which is why he's going back with horsemen. And now it's very important to defend these food sources. You want to put your villagers inside, you want to repair your tower. Of course you're going to lose some villagers, and you see he also got textiles just now, which is very important when you're defending your town center or when you're defending your towers. And there is a lack of spearmen, so these horsemen are very efficient, even against veteran longbows. And these towers with emplacements, remember that he got extra stone for emplacements. These are one of your defensive tools. And of course he's losing some villagers, but he has 2 town centers, and he has a good resource collection, so at this point his objective is just to survive. It isn't going to be easy against Byzantines with all of these mercenaries, with Golden Horde Tower, but eventually you're just going to have more economy if Byzantines stay on 1 town center. Now you want to use your horsemen to try to find some damage. You cannot go here because of Palisade, but maybe this food collection isn't protected, maybe there is some damage opportunity on this gold, because outpost actually died to this outpost. So he's trying to find something. And at the same time, you already have your 3 stables, which is another reason to go for horsemen, because you can just go knights after this, or camel riders. But Marine Lord isn't going any cavalry, so it's better to just go for knights. He also got his barracks for golems. The reason you go golems here is because this contract for longbows, it gives you a lot of longbows, and sometimes you cannot control it because you also have Golden Horde Tower, and golems just work very well against longbows. They can soak a lot of damage, because these are just archers, right? Basically just putting these units outside, trying to idle gold a little bit. You can also see he just got his fertile crescent for cheaper farms, cheaper economy buildings. I still want to be careful to not lose any villagers. And now armored units just in general work very well against Byzantines. So Byzantines will need, and any other civilization probably will need, crossbows to counter it. And we will see what happens next. Here some kind of eco damage with horsemen. He killed 7 villagers, which is a big damage. It doesn't really... the specifics do not really matter here. What's important is you want to use your units, like horsemen or maybe archers, to just go to the back rank, try to idle economy, kill some villagers. So it just comes with experience. He's also trying to use his knights for this, and his 4 units. You can see they're also fighting for relics. At this point he's not getting actively pushed, so he probably can go for mosque and pick up some relics. This relic is pretty secure. He's trying to go for this relic right now, maybe also this relic. But now you can see, if we compare incomes, if we compare villager counts, villager count is already better for them. And incomes, it's about... how much is it? It's about 2,400 against, even with olive oil, this is below 2,000. So his win condition right now for them against one town center, even though it's Byzantines, is still one town center, is just to not lose villagers, keep your economy going, use your economic wing to transition to farms, because it only costs 53 wood, and also get some units, gulams or maybe knights or maybe some range units, and we will see range units a little bit later. Also trying to do some damage here. We can see Marine Lord started going crossbows, and Wham can see it, which is why Wham, in a moment, I believe will just go for archers. Trying to find some damage, but no luck, because of this palisade. Still going a lot of gulams, still going some knights trying to find damage. But you can see at this point, against crossbows you just cannot fight like this. You cannot lose your gulams, it's a lot of lost resources. Which is why he's going for archer ranges. And the reason is Abbasid archers, because Abbasid archers get this unique upgrade, composite bows. It is plus 33% increase in attack speed. It's extremely strong, an extremely strong buff, right? Especially if you're having problems with your food. Although he has some farms, he still has a lot of wood collection. You just want to go for these archers. So you play it like this, you go your gulams to act as your front line to kill all unarmored units, and even fight man-at-arms. You want to go for your archers to stop enemy crossbows or to stop enemy spearmen, if enemy for some reason has spearmen. And you also want to go for crossbows to deal some damage to armored units, like these Varangian guards. And here you can see economy advantage is still there. Relic count is not bad, it's 2 relics versus 2 relics. Marine Lord is trying to push with mercenaries, but at this point, if you're playing against Abbasids, and Abbasids have more villagers and their economy and their military isn't completely crushed, they can just fight you. Also, Vam used his siege engineering to construct mangonel to counter these longbows and these crossbows. Another reason why you want to go for mass infantry with Abbasids. He's still using his lancers to deal some damage. But at this point, he's just getting a lot of units. Economy difference is absolutely crushing, absolutely massive. Marine Lord just went for a second town center, but it's like you cannot stay on one town center because you're going to lose on economy, and you cannot go for a second town center because this is what's going to happen. There's a lot of range units, but no answer to mangonel. And all Vam needs to do is just streamline more units into the base. So let's speed it up a little bit, see how it ends. Some idle time here, still fighting. You can see him going heavily for gulams plus a lot of archers plus some crossbowmen. And just to compare, Abbasid archers 1.25 attack speed, a seconds per attack meaning, right? And English longbow, which is usual archer, on attack speed, 1.62. It's a big difference. And you're just going in, you're just going for the economy. He's also getting his sacred sites. He managed to get 3 relics. Even if you don't manage to kill Byzantine player here, for example, if a Byzantine player gets a keep here or gets some defensive towers, there are 2 options for you. First of all, you can establish control over the map, put some towers, some keeps on these gold mines, and get maybe more economy, get Imperial Age. And option number 2 is just to get some forward keep, or maybe not even get a keep, get some siege like trebuchet, like springles, mangonels. You can build springles and mangonels with your units, of course, and just break all fortifications. But right now there is no way Marine Lord can come back from this, and it's just over. You see, there are just too many units. Alright, so let's look at another game. This one is by Kiljardi, and it's against English. And here I just want to show you that you do not have to go 2 town centers every game. You can get away with just 1 town center if you are afraid of getting pushed. So here build order is nothing special. He goes with 7 villagers on foot. Even 8 villagers, right? Interesting. 10 villagers. Yeah, I guess it's just Kiljardi build order. And he's aging up with military wing initially, because I think he wants to just get some extra units, maybe to protect himself from king in case it's a king, but you can see it's a council hall, and he will scout it right now. So now he knows that his opponent is going to all-in him from 1 town center, because stone is also not being collected. And here he changes his plans. You see he constructed this mining camp, but he deleted it, and he got some stone for emplacement probably. But now he doesn't want to go for a 2nd town center, because where do you put it actually? If you put it here, it's going to get pushed by English, and there are not safe golds or food sources in the back. So here you kind of have to play 1 town center units, right? And fight English and maybe do some damage and hope to get to the next stage. So you can see he immediately goes for horsemen, he also getting fresh foodstuffs. And the English player is just going to get longbows plus spearmen. And it's very important when you're playing like this with Abbasid to win or at least not lose your initial fight, because if you lose your units, it's going to be an absolute disaster for you. You're getting these 4 free units, and you just want... Yeah, he used his stone to get emplacement to protect his gold mine, and here he's using his archers to snipe spearmen, and horsemen to snipe longbows. It's working out really well, and at this point he's already feeling pretty comfortable. And now he's getting some eco upgrades like wheelbarrow. He does not want to go for next stage just now. He wants to get more units first, so let's skip it a little bit. He's getting archery range, blacksmith, more archery range. Now he's going to use his horsemen to raid this back rank, and he's going to use his archers and his tower to protect himself. Because this gold is protected, this wood is maybe not very protected, but he has another wood line, and this tower gives a lot of vision. So here he just managed to get a villager kill, which is pretty sweet. He's getting more archers, he's getting blacksmith upgrades, he got arrow defense of course, for his horsemen, and of course for his archers. And at this point, he just wants to get enough horsemen and archers to protect himself, maybe to do some damage, and then to go next stage. Because long term, you don't want to stay in feudal age for long with Abbasid. It's just not a very good place to be, because especially against English, because you'll run out of food, and your units cannot stop longbows in the end, when he has like 40 longbows. But here is another good fight. You want to constantly chase with horsemen, you want to kill spearmen using your archers. At the same time, now he's making a decision, because he knows English doesn't have a lot of military. It's almost 2 times the difference, and this economy is a little bit exposed. So he already has a lot of gold. He never removed his 4 villagers from gold, but he's using his food to get more units, and you can see he's going really heavily on food. And now he's making a choice to basically sacrifice some of his military to kill villagers, to buy himself some time and transition to next stage. Then, of course, here in 1 town center, but you're in the next stage, your economy is still better than English, and you get your better units. So let's see how he does it. He just basically steps in, trying to shoot and step, and now he goes for villages. And in total he will manage to kill a total of 6 villagers, which is a big damage. At the same time, there is almost enough resources for age up. This is an unfortunate timing, a little bit of mismicro, because he isn't getting any food collection here. He got 5 of his villagers on this tower, but he also needs to go for some food source. You can see food sources here are really unfortunate for him. He can go for this berries or this deer, but he goes for this deer with 2 towers. And now he just needs to be very careful to not lose his villagers, and to use his units in some way. Aging up with Culture Wing, probably to get cheaper upgrades for his units. Still getting more archers, because you want to age up and upgrade your archers. Here, his villagers on berries are being attacked, and you want to use this distraction. Of course, you lose some villagers, but you want to use this distraction to probably counter-raid your opponent. Here, you can see, he got 1 villager kill as a compensation. And now this gold mine, he needs to abandon it, but he's already next stage, which is why he made barracks and he made another archer range to get this archer's upgrade. Now you just want to get archer and maybe gulams and also maybe some knights and beat this army. And if he can beat this English army, he's going to be in a vastly better position. He can, after claim the relics, he can raid the economy, use the fact that English is still in feudal age, and let's just see how it goes. He still needs to be careful with his food sources, of course, and English right now is not aging up yet, but trying to do some damage. Of course, he's getting his protection from arrows. He probably needs to get this composite bows upgrade. He already got his Culture Wing upgrade for cheaper upgrades. Some fighting here. Castle Age archers are very good against all feudal units if you have enough of them, especially Abbasid archers. This is one of the things you want to leverage. He's producing a ramp to break towers, which give English player this attack speed. But basically, you just want to mass your military, you just want to fight, because your economy is better at this point. Against English maybe in this exact situation it's not exactly better, because of a lot of farms, and English farms are kinda efficient. But he is also transitioning to farms, and he's having some problems with his food sources. And here he actually goes for these far berries, which is risky and completely unnecessary. He should have gone for this berry bush, but probably he did not see it. And he tries to just focus enemy archers. I think it would be better to just go for some crossbows and more gulams. But you see, yeah, he doesn't have any composite bows upgrade yet. It's a little bit of a misplay, but you can see, even with these misplays, he's not letting the English player come close to his resources, which is very important. He also got some stone to get this sprinkled upgrade. So probably at this point I would go for a second town center, maybe also go for relics, but Kiljardi wants to play it aggressively, which is also an option. And here he tries to find some damage. Trying to go here, trying to deal some damage. At the same time, he's keeping tabs on these English units. Well, maybe not. Yeah, maybe he didn't just didn't see it. But you can see your economy at this point is just very good. It's stronger than English economy already, and he can use it to make even more units, now making crossbows. In general, you want to go for infantry, because infantry is stronger. It has more health points. And if you just compare it, English man-at-arms has 155 HP, and Gulam has 224 HP. That's a massive difference. Although Gulams are more expensive, right? But still. And now just using archers to get a lot of damage done. English player losing a lot of villagers. So economy is already better for him. He's also started to get some relics. And at this point he also got this keep, to use as his, base, bulwark for pushing into English base. And at this point, English is going to run out of gold at some point. I mean, out of safe gold. Abbasids have a good position to attack, they have more villagers, and their units at this point are stronger. And it's just a better game for Abbasids. If you do your farm transition right, if you don't lose villagers, if you don't lose any fights, and because you're going for a lot of strong infantry units, all of which have 15% extra HP, it's really difficult to lose fights. So you just want to fight your opponent, in this case English, in h3 as long as possible in this situation. The problem, of course, is that English player is on 2 town centers, so this is why I would probably go for a second town center. Here is another fight. It's not the best fight for Kiljardi, because he's going to lose a lot of units here, I think. I would probably go for some siege first, mangonels, trebuchets, try to push, maybe some rams. But he wants to play it like this. And of course, though this wasn't the best fight, he still has military advantage. And now at some point, you see he's already getting some siege, and English player is not close to getting any siege. So this is a bit of miss micro from the opponent, and this game should be just over, because these units are lost. There is no answer to mangonels, and he can just push in to these farms, and English player is out of gold, and this gold is soon to be like blocked if he just puts a tower, right, or leads his units here. So this game is just over. Alright, so this is not a very serious game, it's against English on Hill and Dale, and here I just want to show you how to play Abbasid trade. So if your opponent doesn't answer this strategy correctly, you can just easily win this game. Opening is just standard. Here you just want to get your 125 gold for your Grand Bazaar upgrade, and you're aging up with the trade wing. Here on Hill and Dale, it's I would say it's very annoying strategy. Maybe it's not strong, but it's, if you had to choose one map where you play it, it would be Hill and Dale, for several reasons. First of all, these markets are often in corners, so it's easy to put your trade in another corner and just trade here. Also, this map is easier to wall. You can see here with just 2 palisade segments, I completely isolated this side. So all I need to do is not let the opponent come through my base, and also wall here. Maybe here it's not easiest to wall, but usually it's pretty easy, right? And also your bases are just spread along this border of the map, so it's easy to protect your trade here. Of course, I'm going for 1 town center. I got my 125 gold for this Grand Bazaar upgrade. I'm not going for fresh foodstuffs to save some resources. I also spent, before aging up, I sent 1 villager to get these palisades, and now this villager is going to construct this market for me. And I want to reassign my traders to this market, and then I want to produce more traders from here. I'm also getting my archery range, because I see my opponent is playing with Abbey of Kings. I will need some camel archers to counter the king. And he's playing, I assume, he's playing 2 town center king. So 2 town center king looks like a greedy strategy, right? It's 2 town centers, but it doesn't even come close to how greedy you can play with Abbasid trade. You can see I'm losing some villagers here to this king, a little bit of misplay. Now camel archer is here. After some shots he can take care of this king. I'm also getting second camel archer, and together they can kill this king. Now I can finally finish this palisade, and I keep getting more traders. Abbasid traders are actually cheaper. Instead of 60-60 they cost just 40-40 resources. So 40 gold and 40 wood. Traders also bring me some extra food, which makes it easier for me to produce units, because I get more food sources, basically. And I'm getting the second market. I don't need to put it here, I can just put it in my base, and shift click first on this market, then shift click on trade post. So the traders, they will make this short trip with reduced income and then bring full income back to my base, I mean to market. Here you can see I didn't go for palisades here. I went for more defensive palisades. They're a little bit cheaper, I think, but I'm not sure. Anyway, you can go for palisades here, it doesn't really matter. And he's staying on 2 town centers, which gives him extra villager every 20 seconds. But I go for 2 markets, and I keep reducing my traders. It's an extra 2 traders every 30 seconds. So it's already better, and traders, they're going to be more efficient, actually, on this map. And they're not as expensive. And also, why this trade is good on this map, you can see we have just 1 gold mine for 4k gold in our bases. Then normally we will need to move out on the map to get these big gold mines in the middle and kind of fight for them, right? But traders just give me a limited gold, and I can stop worrying about it, if I can pull it off. Here I just want to rush next stage, which is why I'm going with my military wing to get my armored units. And you can see he's getting some horsemen, he's trying to be aggressive. I think it's probably too late. He should have been aggressive from 1 town center, or he just should go Castle Age at this point. But you can see because of these palisades he cannot go through, he has to go through my town center. And I'm just aging up. I remove most of my villages from gold, because my traders already give me a lot of gold. I could also get maybe an additional trade post, additional market I mean, to get more traders. But I don't really have to do it, right? I can just protect this trade. And you can see on economy, the difference is already noticeable, because I'm getting much more gold. I'm just sending some units, my 2 free camels from military wing. They kind of clear a king and horseman, but I don't really care about them. At this point I can just go Gulams. And I think that at this point the game is already over. And it's very funny because nothing really happened, right? He went for 2 town centers, which is an economic play, and he's playing English, so English is a strong defensive civilization, and etc. But also you can see he tried to go for some aggression, lost a little bit of units. And now, if you look at the incomes, it's almost 2 times better for me. I'm getting more traders. If I want to get even more traders, I can go for additional market. My food sources are basically infinite. My traders also give me some food. My units are better. I'm in the next stage. So let's just see what happens next. But basically I just go Gulams. And just look at this economy numbers. It's absolutely insane how strong this trade is. And the reason is that they give me 25% extra food compared to just giving gold. They also get some 25% of food or wood, depending on what you set, so you can change it actually in your market if you want to get wood or food. I can also get more markets. You can see I'm doing just that. And these traders only cost 80 resources compared to 120, which is the cost of usual traders. So English actually cannot go for trade like this. And I even kill some villagers with my Gulams. I can go Imperial Age, look at this. I'm spamming 11 Gulams at a time and I can go Imperial Age. So basically, Abbasid trade, it's a very risky strategy. It can be stopped. For example, if he plays 1 town center, just get some longbow spearmen, occupies my trade post or goes for my villagers, then it would be over, I think. But if your opponent doesn't know how to respond and cannot stop it, then this game is just over. You see how strong this trade is. And if you manage to get to Imperial, it's even more broken because it's already plus 30% extra income. Yeah, you just cannot let Abbasid trade. Okay, so let's also talk about tactics. First of all, your unique tactic is collecting berries. Here you can see when you produce a meal, these berry bushes, first of all, they get improved collection speed, and secondly, they also get more berries stored inside them. This is plus 100 extra food per each berry bush. It's a very nice bonus. we can approximate that if you get 2 of your berry bushes and you collect them with a mill, it is like getting about 1 extra berry bush. It's pretty good, it gives you some extra food. But of course you cannot collect food from boars, so it kind of cancels out. But anyway, at the start of the game you almost always want to pull your villagers, 6 of them, and build a mill on your berries. And if you collect your berries, if you spread your villagers to different berries, this is a very efficient, very good food collection, and it also gives you some extra food under your town center. With many civilizations, you do not want to go for berries initially, for example with French, because berry collection for usual civilizations, it's not as efficient, but for Abbasids it's very efficient and you can collect your sheep later. Usually I would say you want to go for your berries whenever they are safe and they are accessible, but if there is a lot of raising threats or just aggression threats from your opponent, maybe you should not go for your berries. And your second tactic is fresh foodstuffs. You pretty much always want to get it after you age up. You need to collect 75 gold to get it. You can get it from your mill, and it will save you a lot of food, and it will give you an approximately 1 extra villager per each town center you have. Because you have to pay 35% less for each villager you get per minute, and 1 villager costs 50 food, and you get 3 villagers per minute. In total it's about 55, maybe 56 saved food per minute. Maybe it's even a little bit more than 1 villager. Anyway, it's very strong and it pays off for itself in 3 minutes, it's pretty good. And this is the reason why Abbasids so often play 2 town centers, because they can leverage this technology very, very efficiently. Also, let's talk about our House of Wisdom. So, unlike any other civilization, we're using our House of Wisdom to age up. Well, like Ayyubids maybe. But anyway, we place this building. You can see it has this influence area. You want to capture as many of your buildings in this area as possible. You want to extend this aura to your buildings that you additionally make. You want to get it near your 1 minute mark. So after you produce 3 villagers, your villager builds it. You should be careful to not block any useful space with this building. So for example, we want to drop our town center on gold, maybe right here. We shouldn't build our House of Wisdom where it will block our town center. And I would say this is a very good bonus, because it allows you to age up without pulling your workers, it saves you some idle time, but of course it has some weaknesses. Of course you need to wait some time before you can age up, it is a little bit less than 2 minutes for each age up, but also in late game it can be sniped and your opponent just needs to kill House of Wisdom and your town center to win. And it also, if you lose it at some point and you did not manage to age up to H3 or H4, then you cannot age up until you fully repair it. Also, let's talk about our Golden Age. So this influence that House of Wisdom gives, it is a counter towards Golden Age. The more buildings you have under your influence aura, the more Golden Age progresses. The most important benchmark, or I don't know, most important tier you can get is tier 1. It is achieved at 10 structures. It gives you 15% of extra gathering. It's a very, very strong bonus. It is like getting 1 free eco upgrade for each of your resources. This is why you should try to get 10 structures as quickly as possible. You should not maybe build 4 extra houses as soon as you age up, but usually you can get this bonus pretty organically by making a tower, making some production building, making a second town center, and this is why you want to place your House of Wisdom in such a location that it can capture all of your buildings. And I would say tier 2 is almost useless, research speed plus 15% is not enough to make any difference. But if you look at tier 3, it gives us some good bonuses like bonus production speed, and gathering rate is boosted to 20%, which is a nice change. If you have chance to do so, try to go for tier 3. Yeah, and basically you just want to make your buildings inside this influence aura and it will get better. Okay, now let's talk about different wings we can go for in our House of Wisdom. So here I will look what they look like. And in this case we have this economy wing. It looks just like this, and its always will be situated on the bottom side of your House of Wisdom. Yeah, I would say that this wing Before it used to be really overpowered and you were going for it every game. Nowadays, I would say you only want to go for it if you want to age up with 3 town centers. This is very, very rarely these days. It can be played against maybe Chinese with Song Dynasty if they play 2 town centers, or if you know your opponent will not attack you and you can get away with it. But usually you don't play like this in the current meta, because current meta is just too aggressive, too tempo based. You can also get Eco Wing for your H3 transition or H4 transition for your Eco bonuses. Let's talk about these bonuses a little bit. Your Fertile Crescent makes your economic buildings, I think, 30% cheaper, which is very handy for making additional town centers and additional farms. But again, it only pays off if you are going for a massive farm transition, or if you're going for more than one extra town center. Then you have your agriculture upgrade in Castle Age, which is just one extra food gathering upgrade, and it only works on your farms, so it's very situational and you want to get it only after your farms are established. And this improved production, I think, or provisions upgrade, it is an extremely strong eco upgrade. It is 8 extra % of drop of resources, and drop of resources is much better than gathering bonus. Not only it gives you bonus to all your villager collection, but also it gives you some extra wood, extra stone and extra gold, and you should try to go for it if you have the chance. But Eco Wing in general, I would say right now, not very strong initially, because it doesn't give you any immediate payoff, and it depends on your developed economy to give you value. Next we have our Military Wing. It's a little bit of a meta wing. Everyone will go Military Wing in H2 or H3, because Military Wing gives you some free units. And you get 2 free spearmen, 2 free archers in Feudal Age, and you can immediately use them to defend your second town center, or to attack enemy vulnerable spots, like Malian gold mines, or maybe Byzantine berries. And also you get some free Camel Riders in H3 if you aged up with Military Wing to Castle Age. And Camel Riders are just amazing for countering knights and any other cavalry, and fighting for relics, and you can also use them to raid a little bit. It also gives some hand cannoneers in H4, but usually you don't go for H4 Military Wing, usually you go for it in H2 or H3. And I would say this is your most frequent option for aging up to Feudal Age, just because free units are so good to have. But if you went with Culture Wing in H2 and you want to quickly age up, quickly advance, you get it in H3 to get these camels and to get your Military Wing bonuses. And usually, yeah, you go H4 with Military Wing if you didn't go for it earlier. Now let's talk a bit about these bonuses. First of all, I have Bootcamp for Infantry, 15% extra health. If you have Mass Infantry, you always want to get it. Maybe you do not want to get it in Feudal Age very early, unless you have just a big mass of archers and spearmen. But once you get Gulams, this is a very strong technology for them. Composite bows in Castle Age makes your archers absolutely very, very strong for dealing with spearmen and crossbows, and you can even snipe all other units using your archers. But you need to be careful, because armored units can still beat your archers. But if you're going for a composition like Gulams plus archers plus crossbows, this is a very strong upgrade. And Camel support, it only appears in Imperial Age, which is why we don't see it very often. But if you do go to Imperial Age and you get a lot of infantry, this technology is just very good for empowering your Gulams. They become even more tankier, and your spearmen benefit from it too. I would say that the only weakness of this wing is that your free units are situational, so maybe you will not be able to use your spearmen and archers against Rus, for example, because Rus has Kremlin, and maybe you just want to go next stage, in which case you should go for Culture Wing. And let's talk about Culture Wing itself. Culture Wing is another good option for aging up to Feudal Age or to Castle Age. I would say that you should go for it in Feudal if you're trying to quickly age up to Castle Age, and maybe you want to go for it in Castle Age if you want to get some upgrades. People usually go Military Wing in H2, and then they have to choose between Economic Wing and Culture Wing for aging up to Castle Age. And I would say that H4 you do not want to go for this wing if you didn't get it earlier, because it's not going to be tremendously useful. In H4, if you have a choice, usually you want to go for a trade wing. And as about technologies, there is this preservation of knowledge, which makes your technologies and your age up 20%, I think, cheaper. It's a very good bonus and you want to get it as quickly as you go culture wing, because really this technology is the whole point of this wing. Then you have your medical centers, which are very situational, but if you're going for a keep, if you're pushing or defending, this will heal your units and your siege units inside the influence of your keep. It can be pretty good, but it's very situational. And this technology, it allows your individual monks to convert enemy units. I would say it's not very useful. But if you're playing against like elephants and you really want to convert them, why not go for it? I would say that the weakness of this wing is that its value is limited, and this is why usually you don't want to go for it in Imperial Age. It gives you some value from cheaper technologies, but sooner or later you're going to get all technologies, and this will not be very useful. But by the way, if you get it before Age 4, then the discount to getting to Imperial Age is also very nice to have. Yeah, but this wing is pretty situational, and you should go for it only if you're looking for quicker age up, I would say. Trade wing is a more situational wing, and usually we see it closer to the end of the game, when the gold runs out and you want to go for your traders. You get it from, when you get it, you get some free traders. It's 3 traders, then 4 traders, then 5 traders, depending on your age. You want to always send them to a neutral market and maybe establish a trade route. And the general rule of thumb when you want to go for a trade wing is when you can defend it, I would say. Because if you can defend your trade wing in feudal age, because for some reason maybe you're playing on hill and dale, an opponent will not play very aggressively, then it's just going to win you the game, right? In Imperial Age it's just very very strong because you will be both running out of gold, and your traders of course have multiple benefits. They are 33% cheaper, and these 2 upgrades, Grand Bazaar and Spice Rods, this one gives you extra resources, like 25% of food or wood, 25% of your gold carried by your trader. Spice Rods just make your trade 30% more efficient, which is crazy. And armor caravans you only get if you want to protect your traders from units like horsemen, because it gives you some extra armor on your traders. As I said, the only real weakness is that it's difficult to defend, which is why usually we don't see it before Imperial Age, but if you think you can get away with it, it can be very very powerful wing. Okay, and another tactic is military wing rush. Here you can see if you're playing against Malians, maybe you can go your 4 free units and get some horsemen and try to ram rush this mine. You could also go for a tower rush. Here basically you just want to use your free units and maybe get some extra units and maybe get some siege like ram or tower to push vulnerable enemy spots. You don't always want to fully commit into it. Maybe it's easier for you to just cause some idle time and go second town center at the same time. But if you see your opponent cannot adequately deal with it, for example, if this Malian player for some reason went to town centers, you could just finish this game right here. And you always should adapt, you always should check if you deal a lot of damage. Maybe you do not want to go for a second town center. Maybe you just want to go extra horsemen, extra archers, extra camel archers, and try to finish the game. Civilizations like Malians or Japanese or Byzantines, in general, you can deal some damage to them. Against the Japanese, maybe you can just all in from 1 TC. Against Malians or Byzantines, I would say this is more of a temporary measure to set them back a little bit, to cause some idle time. And I would say if your opponent manages to defend this and not lose anything, you can be in a pretty bad position, because you lost a few units and you invested extra resources. So I would say you should only go for this if you know you can deal some damage. Alright, second town center, this is very very frequent tactic for you. You want to place it on your resources. In this case we have our town center on gold. You wanted to place it in such a way that it's inside your influence of this House of Wisdom, because this influence will also protect you from torches. And if it's not inside influence, you should extend your aura so it's inside. And here, of course, we need our fresh foodstuffs for cheaper villagers. And the most important thing about town center, I would say that you should be able to protect it. Maybe if you know you will not be able to protect it, you shouldn't go for it, or you should go for it in a safer location, and you should know how to protect it. First of all, you can garrison villages inside. It's up to 10 villages right now. You can garrison and ungarrison them to break rams, for example. Also, you can get your textiles, and funny thing about textiles, They also become cheaper from fresh foodstuffs. Maybe you should also place a tower here for more villagers to be able to garrison. And of course, you should get some units if you can, if you have the ability to do so. And again, I should just reiterate it. Your second town center is one of your win conditions. It develops your economy. You should place it in such a way that it gives you some resource, like gold or food, and that you will be able to protect it from your opponent. So it's not if it's very exposed on a deer pack, you do not go for a town center or on a deer pack, right? It's if it's very exposed. Yeah, and once you go second town center, you essentially commit into defense, because your opponent, he can be aggressive and you will need to survive somehow. It slows you down quite a bit, and maybe in many games you just need to go fast castle on one town center, and you should look out for your food sources. You should, of course, you have your fresh foodstuffs to make life a little bit easier for you, but you should keep an eye for any berries or any deer packs and go for them when it's safe and when you're able to defend them. Camel Archers is one of your units you get from one of your unique units, right? And you get them in Feudal Age. They're pretty good against any armored units. If you're getting crushed with Burgrave or with Maya Arms, this is your option to stop them. In this example, you can see I'm using them to counter this English king. They're pretty expensive though, pretty food intensive, and they also have this camel anise debuff that lowers enemy cavalry damage. You can go for them together with horsemen if you're looking to deal some raiding damage. You can go for mass camel archers if you're countering Maya Arms rush, for example Burgrave. You can also go for 1 or 2 camel archers to debuff enemy cavalry. For example, if you're playing against Delhi Sultanate, you can go for mass archers, spearmen, and just get a few camels to debuff their Ghazi raiders. I would say you should be careful about this unit. You should not overcommit into it, because it's a lot of food, and they die to archers really easily, and they cannot deal with palisades or towers, so they're situational. Be careful about them. Camel Riders is your another unique camel unit. They just destroy any cavalry, but also they have many similarities to knights. You can see here I'm using them together with my lancers. Lancers are a little bit better against most targets, but Camel Riders are just vastly superior against cavalry. They also have this 20% damage debuff to enemy cavalry, and they have a quick attack speed, and they deal bonus damage to enemy siege, so you can also use them to break some mangonels or springles. And they are most useful when you just hit H3. You can counter enemy raids, you can fight for relics, you can use them to raid. Be sure to not overcommit to them. If you got some of them, you can go for lancers instead if your opponent stop going for cavalry. And also in Imperial Age, you can use them to give your infantry a buff that you get from your military wing. Also, you can use camel archers for the same purpose. But they also are kind of food heavy. They cost 160 food. Of course, it's not very different from knights, which cost 140 food. But still, it's pretty expensive, and they also can be countered to some extent by enemy archers, because they do not have as much ranged armor. Golems is your unique Maya Arms. They are pretty tanky. Usually you want to use them as your front line and as your main unit in H3. You can see here I have a backline of archers and of crossbows, and in Castle Age you just go for Golems and you go ranged units, and if needed maybe you go some camels or some spearmen and siege engines. They are also pretty good against feudal armies. If you're getting rushed in Feudal Age and you manage to get to Castle Age, just go for Golems. They can be used to deal with almost anything. They're even decent against Feudal Knights, I would say, but of course you want to get some camels or some spearmen to help you with this, or maybe crossbows. But again, they are pretty food heavy, they're more expensive than usual Maya Arms, and they will not deal very well against crossbows or against knights in Castle Age. Siege Engineering, you can see this is one of your unique mechanics. You can use your infantry units without any upgrades to get your springles and your mangonels. You can also get rams or siege towers. It allows you to just go for a lot of siege very quickly. It's very good when you're pushing, because if your opponent gets a mangonel to defend himself, just quickly go for springles. Or if you're getting pushed, or if you want to get some counter to ranged units, you can just go for mangonel without having to build a siege workshop. And there is not much to say, it's a very useful ability. The only thing you should watch out for is your units are a little bit vulnerable when you're constructing siege. And if you construct it outside of your base, enemy springles can approach and can just snipe your siege while it's being protected. You're just going to lose the resources. Also, you do not want to go for a siege if you don't have enough units, because you will be overwhelmed and your units and your siege will be lost. Unique unit technologies. You have only 2 unique technologies outside of your military wing. It is phalanx and camel handling. This one you get in feudal age, I think, and this one you get from castle age. Phalanx is a really strong upgrade, I would say, when you get a lot of melee units. If you only get a few spearmen and maybe just 10 spearmen, 15 spearmen, it's not noticeable, you shouldn't really go for it, but after you get some 20, 30 or 40 melee units, it becomes very strong. And the reason is because it allows your spearmen to attack from your second rank, and more of your units can attack at the same time. Let's say you have a lot of gulams or horsemen or knights fighting, and you just have some spearmen. So your first rank, your first line of units is attacking, and then your spearmen can attack from behind their backs. It's pretty good. And of course it's easier to chase after enemy cavalry. And this upgrade, by the way, it's pretty cheap. And your second technology, camel handling, it makes your camels, both of your camel units as fast as horsemen, which is very good for countering enemy raids, for raiding yourself, and for using your camels alongside with your horsemen. I would say you should get it if you have at least 8 or maybe 10 camel units, because it's a little bit more expensive, but I think this technology is worth it. It's only 30 seconds, you can get it pretty quickly, and your camels will become just much better for stopping enemy cavalry. Also want to talk a little bit about Imperial army compositions. With Abbasids you probably are going to be playing an Imperial pretty often. You should know some basics about your units. First of all, you have your Culverins. Culverins are stronger versions of Springals. They're pretty amazing at countering siege. They're more population efficient. And you can also use them to snipe enemy towers, because they deal not extra damage, but they just deal a lot of damage, right? And this is why they can punch through the armor on enemy buildings. You should keep it in mind, if you have 4 Culverins, you can easily just break enemy towers without any bombards. Then we have your Spearmen and Gulams, and of course in late game you're probably going to have a lot of food, especially with your unique bonuses, which is why you want to tank, you want to just use your Spearmen and Gulams as your front line. You can get a lot of them, and you also can buff them using your camels, and this will save you a lot of gold, because these units are primarily just food. Your camels are more situational, but you use them to give your infantry this influence for extra armor, and of course they completely shut down enemy cavalry. Very, very good for this. You can also use them to raid, because they're as quick as horsemen. And also, by going camels, especially by going camel archers, they do not cost any gold, they only cost a lot of food and some wood. You can save a lot of gold. If you have a lot of extra food, just spam them instead of hand cannoneers, right? If you don't have any gold to spare. But this being said, if you have a lot of gold, if you have your trade established, because your economy is just so amazing, you can try to finish the game or defend against strong enemy compositions with your hand cannoneers. These units are just very strong, and your hand cannoneers, they even get some extra HP. And of course, you can see you also use your crossbows. Your crossbows are more budget versions of hand cannoneers, but at some point, probably with Abbasids, if your economy is established, you just go for them and you defend them using your strong frontline units. And also, your mangonels and your other siege-like bombards, they're nothing special, but you can get your mangonels with your infantry units, and your economies most likely will be strong, and most likely you will be defending your positions and just fighting for positions a lot, which is why you probably will end up with some mangonels and some other siege engines, so you should not neglect them. H5 is a funny name. I call H5 situations where you get all of your wings. This usually happens if you get your culture wing somewhere in the start of the game, then you get your military wing, and then you want to get your economy wing, but maybe you also want to get your trade wing. because both your trade and your economy wing are very strong. And if you get a lot of resources, if you're just floating thousands of gold and food, you can go for your H5. You just get your last missing wing from this House of Wisdom. I wouldn't advise to do it if only your culture wing is left unpicked, but this usually doesn't happen. Usually you have to pick your eco wing or your trade wing, because these monsters are just very strong. It doesn't really provide anything special, it just gives you these missing bonuses. You should be careful with this if you are in resource deficit and if you don't have your full army and if your base isn't protected, you shouldn't go for it. But if your situation is stable, your economy is established, you can get some extra benefits by doing this. Okay, and the last tactic I want to talk about is Wonder Victory. With Abbasids, because your economy is just so strong, usually you can survive in late game and not die and inflict some damage, but it can be difficult to finish games, just because you lack some unique bonuses that other civilizations have. For example, Rus has stronger siege and cheaper streltsy and just stronger palisades, and it can be very difficult to push them. I don't know, English have the network of castles, which makes them very, very strong in direct fights, and also have infinite gold from their farms. HRE has a very well defended base because of emergency repairs, because of towers, because of relics inside, and you don't have a lot of unique mechanisms to push. Of course, you have your infantry with extra HP, and you have cavalries, and you have camel support and camel units, but your main advantage is just your stronger economy, which is why one of the ways to utilize it is to go for a Wonder Victory. You want to place your Wonder inside your base in a protected location. In this example, it's on the edge of the map. You also use your stone walls to isolate it, get some defenses, make sure that it cannot be easily broken, and you also want to make sure that you have enough resources and enough military to protect it. Once it goes up, you can even delete some of your workers to get more extra military, and just hold onto it, and not let your opponent get a sacred victory. And I should say that this Wonder Victory, it cannot be just done quickly. You want to make some preparations to achieve it. For example, you want to go for some stone collection, maybe you want to very, very aggressively go with your villagers to enemy stone mines, just get a lot of villagers, and get your trade going. So you want to play very greedily, get some stone, and maybe even start buying some stone if you have your trade established, so your opponent cannot buy the stone as well, because exchange rate will be in your favor. Yeah, you just have to keep it in mind, because it's one of your win conditions, and some games can be easily finished by doing this. Okay, now let's look at all matchups you can have when playing Abbasids. First of all, it's against English, and English are this very strong, also positional civilization. The problem with English is that they have network of castles, which makes them very strong in direct fights, and also they can be very aggressive and kill your second town center in H2, because they go for a mass longbow approach, and you don't really have a good answer to a big mass of longbows. When they have just a little bit of longbows, it's easy for you to stop them, using archers and horsemen, but once they get 20, 30, 40 longbows, it becomes dangerous. Also, I would say it's difficult to push them in H2, just because of network of castles and longbows. But they also have a lot of weaknesses. For example, their military is very slow, and their economy is just weaker and slower than your economy, and they really can only take good fights if they either have a big military mass or if they are under their network of castles. My tips would be, first of all, to not go for a second town center if you think you will not be able to defend it. If you see 1TC Council Hall Rush, for example, it's better to just stay on one town center yourself. Maybe if you don't have a back gold, if you don't have a good food source, just stay on 1TC, play Horseman Archer, try to stop them and go Castle Age. Also, if they do go for a second town center, you want to match their town center amount. You want to be ahead on villagers, if possible. And of course, you should avoid network of castle fights. You want to try to break a source of network of castles, or you want to move away, find a better position, and eventually in Castle Age you will have superior economy at some point, because you get your Golden Age and you get your eco bonuses and you fight for relics. Then you just get a big infantry mass, maybe some cavalry units, but usually you want to focus on your infantry, and you just get mangonels and try to push their base. In general, I would say you should not be very afraid of playing long game against English. Of course, they have these farms and free gold and network of castles, but your economy is still going to be better. You just need to try to leverage it by going siege and by taking map control, taking wood and gold deposits, and maybe going for trade wing eventually. Against French, it's a little bit easier because, of course, they have feudal knights and arbaletiers, which are a little bit dangerous, but also French will have a lot of food issues and weaker economy. So they really rely on their knights to damage you, to finish this game as quickly maybe as possible, because really they do not have a lot going for them from h3 onwards. And this is why I would say you want to go for 2 town centers against French and just try to be very defensive. Of course, French have knights and a little bit of bonus to archer production, but still it's very difficult for them to push you. Longbows, for example, would be a much better tool for pushing your second town center, but knights just cannot deal with spearmen, which is why French players go for archers, and archers you can stop with your own archers or maybe horsemen. Also, you can use your camel archers to counter knights. I wouldn't suggest going for mass camel archer, because you will get countered by mass archer, and instead I would suggest just going 1 or 2 camel archers and a lot of your infantry units to just put a debuff on enemy knights and then use your archers to win the fight. If you have a lot of food sources though, you can go for horsemen. You can use them to counter archers and swarm with mass spearmen and horsemen and use them to raid French economy because it's going to be exposed, but usually it's better to just go for mass archer. At some point you can transition to next stage, you can maybe get some relics and just use your big mass to push the French player. Most likely they will have food problems and it should be no problem for you to just push them. Joan of Arc, I don't want to talk too much about it because it's very similar to French. The only difference is that they have Joan of Arc and play a little bit differently and maybe sometimes can try to tower rush you. You should watch out for this, prevent tower rush. I don't think you can pull villagers, but maybe you want to leave your gold and go to another gold, or make your own tower, or make some spearmen archers, make your ram and push the tower, because you get your siege engineering for free. But eventually it's almost the same matchup as French, you just need to survive. Against HRE, I would say it's a difficult matchup, because HRE has very strong economy with Aachen Chapel, and they have very good power spikes when they age up. They also can try to go for Burgrave Rush or for Regnitz and Mass Relics, but their main weaknesses are that they rely on relics too much. Without relics they do not have a good gold source, and they have no passive resource generation without relics, and in H3 you can deal a lot of damage to them if they are not prepared. And this is a lot of tips. I would suggest first of all to play 2 town centers, because if you play 1 TC aggression or 1 TC fast castle, they just can go aggression themselves, or they can just, go 2 town centers maybe in some cases, and you don't want to be behind HRE on villages. You usually want to just go 2 town centers. You're going to give them some relics, of course, if they try to go for relics, but it's okay as long as you don't give them too many relics. Then you want to use your spearmen or camel archers and palisades to defend relics if they're going for Regnitz. You should not rush your H3, you should just get some units, try to stop them from picking up all relics. Maybe 2 relics, maybe if you're really lucky you can stop them from picking up 3 relics. If they go for Burgrave, of course you want to go camel archers to kill their infantry units and eventually to go for next stage yourself, which is why you should keep your eye open for different H3 strategies. It can be Regnitz, can be Burgrave Rush, or just H2 aggression. I would say out of these 3, H2 aggression is the most dangerous, but if you go to town centers and defend yourself really well, you should be able to stop it in most games. And from H3, I would say you just need to be aggressive, you need to assert yourself, pick the relics that are still left. If they still have some knights, you can use your camel riders, but usually you just go for crossbows and infantry like spearmen or gulams. You get siege, you control the map. And of course they can transition to Imperial. Your goal maybe is not to destroy HRE, but just to kill a lot of villagers and make it more difficult for them to collect resources. Maybe if they make a very exposed tower with a relic, you can break the tower and get this relic for yourself. And if you get to a very late game against HRE, you should go for your trade, because your trade is going to be a major advantage. HRE trade has no bonuses, and they will rely eventually only on relics to get gold, because gold mines will run out. But your trade will be eternal, and it gives you a lot of extra resources, and I would say very late game is actually good for you. OotD is a little bit similar to HRE, but their economy is going to be much weaker, and they have some unique aspects, such as better knights and better landsknechts and more efficient production. Usually OotD will be more oriented towards aggression, I would say, but also their timings are much slower, and it makes it more comfortable for you to play any strategy you want. You can play aggressive H2 with military wing, one town center aggression. It's not necessarily the best way to play, but sometimes, maybe on cliffside, you can stop them from getting any food, force them to transition to farms, block their gold, and you can even try to go castle age faster than they do. But you can also play the same way you would play against HRE, with 2 town centers, with relic blocks. The only thing you should be careful about is OotD, I mean going for some like Purgrave Landsknechts or maybe their Giga Knights, because these units have some unique aspects to them. You should not underestimate them. Against Abbasid, it's a mirror match. Both of you will have good economy and strong castle age, but also both of you will have slowish economy at the start, which is why I wouldn't suggest being very aggressive in feudal age. Usually you just want to be ready for military wing and try to go military wing yourself. You want to build your second town center safely, and I would say 2 town centers is the optimal amount of town centers to go for. Then you just transition to castle age and mass your units. Most often it's Gulams plus archers plus crossbows, and this way you just fight for relics, fight for map control, try to be very aggressive and win as many engagements as possible. So this game often degrades into castle age wars. Ayyubids, it's a little bit similar in the sense that you both get your better berry collection and your House of Wisdom, but Ayyubids almost always try to play quick castle age, which makes them very different to play against. And really, this matchup is all about surviving castle age. Usually, I would say you want to go for fast castle. I mean, not fast castle, but 2 town center fast castle. You don't want to spend a lot of time in second age. But going fast castle with camel riders is also an option. I recently tried playing it. I would say it's not perfect, but it's pretty good, because Ayyubids, they rely on their camel lancers to deal some damage, and maybe also on some desert traders, and camel riders, they are very good against these units. So do not be afraid to go for camel riders in this matchup. You want to deny them as many relics as possible, but you can also play just 2 town centers with fast transition to castle age and some units for defense. The reason I'm saying you can play fast castle from 1 TC is because Ayyubids are very good at pushing 2 town centers, even civilizations like Rus or English, which is why you should be flexible. You should see if your TC location is going to be really safe. But if you do it like this, if you establish your economy with 2 town centers, you just eventually go for mass infantry, which is going to be stronger for you because of military wing, and because your archers are just going to be much better, and your gulams are going to be better. And you should be able to stop their push with your infantry, also get some siege springles against their mangonels, because they also have siege engineering, mangonels against their infantry mass, and eventually you just push with your superior economy, should be able to beat them, even if you give them 3 or 4 relics. Your economy is still going to be better. Delhi Sultanate is a very aggressive civilization, and normally I would say it's a difficult matchup for you. In general, there are 2 approaches. First is to play 2 town centers, and second is to play 1 TC and try to go castle age. But in both cases you have to fight in feudal age. There is no way around this basically. Maybe on some maps which are very close or maybe very hard to rush, you can go for castle age, but usually I would suggest going for some units. Against Delhi, you can play horsemen to stop them from getting all sacred sites or to do some raids, because daily will have eco travels, like their food collection usually will be outside their base because of how many units they're spamming. And I would say that you want to go for a lot of archers in any case if you want to fight them, but also you want to go for horsemen, but you don't like have to go for horsemen, right? If you see that this map doesn't allow you, you can just go for mass archers and spearmen, but it's absolutely critical for you to not lose any engagements. And when the time is good, you just transition to H3, you get your gulams, you get upgrades for your archers become absolute monsters, and Delhi Sultanate cannot get upgrades for their units quickly enough. So in this matchup you do have a good timing, you should play around it, and your main objective is just to try to survive, I would say. Chinese is a more comfortable matchup because Chinese is a little bit similar to your civilization. It also has a good economy, it also has it has good economy, that's it. They have Zhu in H2, which are very strong, and which is why you don't want to push Chinese in H2, because they eventually are getting some Zhu and it becomes impossible to push them. But maybe you can do some aggression with military wing. Their raids with palace guards or fire lancers become very strong from Castle Age, although fire lancers at this moment are kind of a meme, and people usually just play palace guards. But also Chinese, they do not have such a good transition to food as you do, they don't get bonus for berries, and their H3 is not as strong as yours. Of course they get nest of bees and palace guards, but if you have to fight, you will have your military wing, your units are going to be stronger, your siege engineering will also be very useful. You just have to watch out for their nest of bees. I would say you have to go, or rather you want to go for 2 town center Castle Age. Sometimes maybe you can go Eco Wing 3 town centers, but if you do it this way you become susceptible to Zhu rush, so I would suggest 2 town center Castle Age, then you get relics, establish your economy. In most cases Chinese player will not be able to punish you very heavily, and you kind of don't have to rush anything, you just secure map control, secure resources, and you use your good economy to get your infantry mass, to get some siege to defend yourself from their siege, and just slowly grind them down, push them. So don't be afraid to go for traders, don't be afraid to go for Imperial Age. Just use your good economy or smooth transitions to slowly establish your dominance. Against Zhu Xi, it's similar in many ways, but also it's very, very different, because Zhu Xi will more often try to Zhu rush you, because they do not need a second landmark for this, and their castle rush is going to be more viable and more dangerous, because their transitions are cheaper. I think this matchup is more about defense. You should be careful with your second town center, you want to place it in a safe location, and if there is no safe location, maybe you don't want to go for a second town center at all, maybe you want to go for just 1 TC fast castle. You want to utilize your horsemen if you see any Zhu to counter them and to raid their economy, because Zhu Xi Legacy doesn't have a Barbican, unlike Chinese, and this makes them more susceptible to raids. But also, when you age up, you want to use your gulams and your archers crossbows to push them. Zhu Xi economy will be a little bit weaker than Chinese, which makes it easier for you to just push them in Castle Age. If they go for 2 town centers in Feudal Age though, you just play it the same way as you would play Chinese. And I would say against Zhu Xi, you want to be more careful initially, but when your economy is secured, when you're Castle Age, you just want to just relentlessly push them. Mongols, I would say it's another difficult matchup, because Mongols can boom much more quickly than you do. Their silver 3 traders just going to be better than your 2 town centers in most cases, or even your 3 town centers, and they also get some knights, keshiks, which are almost like knights in Feudal Age. And also they have a good timing for H3 attack, so really they counter you at all initial game points. But also they're susceptible to raids and have to rely on traders to catch up with your economy. So if they do not go for traders, you can just go 2 town centers defense and you should be absolutely fine. So you have to assume that they go for traders. First of all, you have to be ready for tower rush. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stop tower rush, maybe you can just let them have 1 woodline or 1 gold mine, if you have a spare one. And if you let them tower rush you, maybe you just gonna can go back, get archers, get spearmen, and make a ram because your siege engineering is free, and just break their tower. I would say you should be very careful, not lose any engagements, mass your units and push their trade when it's vulnerable. It can be in late feudal age, around 10-minute mark, or it can be in castle age. You don't want to just lose your units, but at some point you have to punish, you have to push their traders. And eventually you just go h3. Hopefully by this point you have 2 town centers, you will establish your economy, and from this point on, game becomes very comfortable for you, because if they are not actively pushing you, you can raid with your cavalry or camels, and camel riders, they really shine here, because they are very quick as horsemen, they can snipe traders, and they can deal with mango dye or Keshiks very easily. But also your infantry push is very strong. You can use your siege to kill their crossbows or their archers that Mongols will be using with Kurultai. You want to go for Gulams, you want to go for archers and crossbows, and you want to be careful, of course, with their Kurultai, but usually it's a matter of just securing your economy and keeping up the pressure to not let them utilize their traders. Against Ottomans, I would say, are an easier matchup. They get military schools, but military schools in feudal age are too expensive and too slow, and in h3, h4 you already have economy advantage, and really they need to damage you to, I would say, to win this game. I would say you want to be aggressive in h2 if possible. You want to go military wing because you can punish their military schools and you can attack their other economy, but also you want to go for 2 town centers, of course. You don't want to go for any cavalry because they will have janissaries. Maybe some knights or some camel riders for securing relics or raiding are fine, but cavalry should not be your central unit, which is fine because as Abbasid you want to go push with your infantry mass. And it's just a simple game for you, simple in terms of straightforward. You establish economy, establish map control, then you get mass infantry and mass siege. And don't forget to get a lot of Springles to stop their mangonels or their great bombers in Imperial Age. And you should not let go of the map. You should secure your neutral market eventually for your traders, or you should just push if you see you can finish the game. Because after some time, Ottoman will have food problems, econ transition problems, and you need to make good use of it. Malians are just more difficult version of Ottomans. They have the same principle. They get their investment in the form of cows, in form of pit mines, and then they get the just unholy amount of units in Castle Age. But they also have the same vulnerabilities. First of all, military wing push can be very strong against them. Even you can tower rush them. So you bring your units, you bring your villager or 2 villagers, you put a tower on their pit mine. They cannot remake it. Maybe also get some horsemen. I would say if you are not fully sure you can finish the game with 1 TC military wing, you should go for 2 town centers and then just look for a castle age transition. After which it's a matter of securing relics, securing your economy, getting some farm transition if needed, and your army composition, it feels really good to use against Malians, because your sofas are countered by camel units and by spearmen, and if you go Gulams plus archer, it's very strong for Malians to beat you. They do not really want to go for sofas because of spearmen and because of camels, which can be easily integrated into your military. So they have to go for Musafadi warriors to kill your Gulams, but archers make quick work of Musafadi warriors. And also Gulams, they have more HP, they do not die as easily to Gulams, to Musafadi warriors as usual man-at-arms would. And you just keep pushing, maybe make some siege. So usually it's a good game for you, I would say. Byzantines are a difficult matchup because Byzantines can play different ways. They can be very aggressive in Second Age, they can even go for Hippodrome, or they can just transition into Castle Age with a lot of mercenaries like longbows and keep pushing you. This push is usually very strong and very continuous, it just doesn't stop. But also their vulnerabilities is of course to your military wing. You can stop their berry production, you can tower rush their berries, can be pretty powerful, and if they do not manage to do any damage, if you manage to get 2 town centers and they're still sitting on 1 TC, then you just feeling a little bit better It's not going to be easy for you to win, you will have to play defensively, but eventually you can defend yourself, you can get your golems, archers, crossbows, and win the game. My tips would be, first of all, to slow down mercenaries with military wing. It's absolutely essential, I would say. At least you force them to make tower or 2 towers or some early units. Go for a second town center in a safe location. It's absolutely critical. If your town center cannot be defended, don't go for it, because you're going to lose it. Go for some horsemen also, they are very good for raiding and countering mercenaries. One thing you can do is go for multiple stables, just to try to stop mercenaries and raid. And you want to age up, and once you age up, you want to go for your armored units and for your rage composition. Then it's going to be a difficult game, but it's just a matter of stabilizing economy and pushing. If Byzantine player is still on one town center, it will become a good game for you very quickly, as long as you don't lose any fights. Japanese are a bit of an easier matchup. Here you really should be afraid of his castle age and his knight push, and of course infantry like samurai on the Geisha can wipe your army pretty easily if you let them get a big mess, but other than this it's pretty easy for you, because Japanese are very vulnerable in feudal age. And first of all, you can just go military wing aggression in H2, so their landmark is Kura Storehouse, which gives them some free farms, but guess what? Farms immediately do not bring any eco benefit. Basically, they do not have a functioning H2 landmark until it's minute 10, until they run out of sheep food collection. Which is why you use your military wing units to attack their gold, or maybe attack their berries and maybe tower rush their gold. And many games you can just win against Japanese by going military wing 1TC aggression, with horsemen, archers, camel archers, at some point maybe transitioning to next stage. If you don't want to play it like this, you can of course just go to town centers. It is going to be, I would say, a little bit difficult for you. You will have to defend yourself against knights, against samurai, by going spearmen and camels, eventually age up against crossbows. But this is played the same way as you would play against the Ottomans or Ayyubids at this point. You just build up an infantry mass, you're letting go most of the relics, but some relics hopefully you can secure, and then it's just a matter of pushing them. But I would say you should be careful with Japanese, because they'll be sitting, when you have a big mass and push them out, they will be sitting under their town center. Town center can shoot rockets at some point, and they'll probably have some siege and a big infantry units, infantry mass, right? Like on Geisha samurai. On Geisha and samurai can clear your compositions pretty easily, which is why, when you cannot push them, you can just take control of the map. Just take control of gold mines, wood lines, and play for a slow, longer game. It's going to be better for you eventually, because your economy is just stronger. And last matchup against Rus. Against Rus, I would say it's a decent matchup, maybe not good for you, but it's very symmetrical, because Rus also has a good eco, but also they have a good aggression. You should be you should be careful around it, right? You should be careful about Rus knights in feudal age. I would say that in H3 though, Rus are a little bit weaker than you, because you have more H3 bonuses, your infantry is stronger, and your economy is going to scale a little bit better eventually. And you also get camels to stop their knights or horse archers. I would suggest going for culture wing in this matchup, because if you go for feudal age military wing, you will have to use your units in some way, but because of Kremlin, often it's just not possible to use your spearmen and archers. So you go culture wing, you go for a second town center, then you counter knights if needed by going towers, palisades or spearmen. You should make sure that you will be able to secure your second town center, because Rus can play 1TC aggression to just try to kill you, or they can play 2 town centers themselves. In any case, you want to be able to secure your second town center. Then, when it's safe, you try to age up. For example, if Rus goes for 2TC, usually you just want to age up with culture wing straight away, and use your villagers, get textiles, get your units to defend yourself. I would say this is your best shot. You want to fight for relics. Luckily, you will have your military wing transition and some free camel riders. In general, camel riders are just very strong against Rus in H3, I would say. because it forces them to go for infantry, and Rus doesn't want to go for infantry. And then your best bet is to just establish your economy. At the same time, you just want to push them in Castle Age. Rus, it really shines in Imperial Age, but it's not as good, I would say, in Castle Age, and you want to use your superior infantry, your superior units, and your siege engineering to keep the pressure and to make them fight you in Castle Age. Maybe make some forward keeps, forward towers, and try to crush them. Try to make it difficult for them to transition to farms or gold mines, and just try to finish the game like this. Okay, so to conclude, let's talk about some general things you want to do when you try to play Abbasids. First of all, I would say important thing to understand is that Abbasids are a proactive civilization, which means that in general you choose the way you want to play. You can play, for example, 2-town center grid, you can play 3-town centers, you can play trade wing, you can play 1TC fast castle. But the problem is that your opponents, they will have to react to your plays, and their reactions will be very, very difficult for you to stop. And this is the main problem of Abbasids. This is what makes them so simple to get into but difficult to master. Because it's simple, it's relatively easy to learn each individual strategy you can play as Abbasids, but learning to defend yourself from enemy attacks, from enemy actions, is much more difficult. Which is why I would say you have to learn a lot of reactions, different approaches, different tactics, if you want to play Abbasid really, really well. And this is why you also have to understand when and how to play different openings. When you can go for a second town center, when you should avoid it, and in which locations you can place it, and when you cannot place your second town center, and when you should be looking for your H3 transitions. There is a lot of nuance, I would say. Also, you should be ready to play a positional and defensive game, which means with Abbasids games in general, they tend to be a little bit longer. Your victories tend to be a little bit longer anyway. In many cases, your opponent will recognize that you're 2 TCs and he's 1 TC and he didn't do any damage, so he just leaves. But most games, you will have to slowly establish your economy, take control of the map, make a strong infantry mass and siege units, and just keep attacking your opponent. So it takes time, and with Abbasids it's all about being methodical, it's all about taking control and not taking any unnecessary damage. And my last tip, which is completely non-ironic, you shouldn't forget about Wonder Victory, because in many cases you just cannot get sacred sites and it's difficult to push. So why not make this game a little bit more fun and a little bit more, I don't know, comfortable for yourself, and just go for a Wonder Victory, right? Because your economy is just so strong, and I would say in very, very late games it's just the easiest way to make use of your bonuses. Alright, so this sums it up for Abbasid Guide. If you have any questions or just additional notes, maybe I forgot something, just put them in the comments. And thanks for watching. Hopefully I will be playing some more Abbasid games on my stream, so you can check them out there. And alright, have a good night.